Should you keep freelancing or start an agency? What's the best way to go? This is one of the toughest decisions for many people around the world. But luckily, I've been there and I know two people who can answer that question in the best way.
Why did you decide to start freelancing?
After having a full-time job for 2 years and like another full-time job for 6 months, I decided to go ahead and start freelancing. It was mostly just because I did love to work. And like, in my opinion, like when I did have full-time roles at companies, it was like enough work, but I usually could have done it faster than like the 8-hour period and I wouldn't know what to do else. So based off of that, I slowly started to freelance and started feeling bad that I'm maybe lying at my current job. So based off of that, I dropped all of that out and started kind of becoming a full-time freelancer. This way, I was able to kind of see what are my skills actually, just because when you have a full-time job, sometimes you're gonna think that you're good, but like when you start being a freelancer, you're actually gonna understand, are you good or are you not? And like in my case, I could have done a lot better. So like I've learned a lot more by having like a lot more projects at my plate.
Why did you build an agency?
I can say that I decided to actually build an agency just because it was one of my childhood dreams to actually build a business. Since I was pretty young, I always wanted to kind of grow my business. Like that was my, let's say, the end goal. So that's why I kind of even decided to move from freelancing to starting my own business. And that allowed me to actually focus and learn a lot more skills than I would ever imagine learning in my life.
What would you say are the biggest benefits of your type of work?
The biggest benefits of being a freelancer, like for me, just because I do love to work, was that I can go ahead and kind of start working, let's say at 8 a.m. I can turn off everything. I don't have anybody kind of bugging me out and I can zone in my work. Just because I did have 1 to 2 clients or something like that. So it wasn't a lot of kind of communication back and forth. And based off of that, I can start and I can have my empty calendar and work for 8 hours straight and just enjoy and kind of get into the flow of actually working. Additionally, I was able to basically dictate my own schedule. Let's say if I needed to go like on a vacation or something like that, I can go ahead and sit down and work, deliver a project much faster than needed, and then based off of that, go ahead and go to my vacation. I would say the biggest benefits of the work that I'm doing currently is that I can learn every single day completely for free, I would say. I mean, of course, if I make a mistake, it's gonna cost me a lot. But in order to learn, let's say, sales, finance, marketing, design, development, like all of the spectrum of kind of things you actually need to learn in order to run a business, it would be pretty hard or pretty expensive if you want to pay courses for that. So based off of that, I think like the biggest advantage of my position currently is that I have a vehicle with which I can test and learn and iterate and constantly be learning something new and explore things that are kind of pretty interesting in my life. I would say that's one of the biggest benefits of becoming a business owner and like an agency owner on that front. On the other side, it's also being able to watch a lot of trends happening worldwide. Just because, let's say when there's AI, we usually start getting AI clients who need websites for AI services. So we're always on the peak of technology and everything that's happening in the world. And it's a great way to continuously stay informed about everything firsthand from like and understand what's actually happening on the market.
What are the biggest downsides?
The biggest downsides were, I would say, a loneliness kind of in terms of work and just kind of not relating to many other people. Just because when I did start freelancing, all of my friends were actually still at college just because I dropped out. And it was pretty hard to relate to them just because I did kind of work alone in my room and I was in my room for a whole day. So like I didn't like bounce ideas like a lot with people just because I was a freelancer. I wasn't integrated into the company, so I wasn't integrated into their company culture. So I just, let's say, a third wheel that does great work. And also additionally, as I've been freelancing more and more, I started juggling a lot more things. Like I started juggling doing finance, doing kind of like replying to emails, then like more leads started coming in and accepted more leads. It was hectic, like my cash flow was going up and down. And then it started becoming kind of a little bit stressful kind of as the time went by. So I do feel like that if you're freelancing, it's best that if you commit to 1 or 2 clients and just kind of stick to that and then kind of slowly maybe change one, like drop one of the client and add another one, just because it can become pretty hectic and you can start hating the role you started just because of flexibility, but in the end ending up like you cannot go anywhere just because you're overbooked. One of the biggest downsides, I would say, of running an agency is like you don't have a boss. Like I cannot stress how easy it was for me to stay motivated and just to have like a normal working schedule when I did have set deadline for specific things and when I did have kind of timelines and stuff like that. Currently, I'm the one who's making responsibilities for me, and even though we currently have a big team who needs a lot kind of for me every single week or whatever, in the end, like, I don't have anybody to say to me to wake up in the morning to kind of do anything of that matter. So I constantly need to motivate and iterate and kind of just test out new ideas and force myself to do that without technically any pressure from the outside world. Additionally, most of the stuff I'm doing currently, just because we've grown a lot, is not going to be seen for the next 3 to 6 months. When I was a freelancer, every single day that I was working, I can say, okay, this day I designed this section, this design, developed this website or whatever, versus now it's much more high level, and like you don't know that if you've made a mistake until like 3 or 6 months pass by. So it's pretty kind of a little bit stressful, and sometimes you can have anxiety just because of that, because you're never doing something for just tomorrow. When you do scale that's of course, like in the beginning, you do have a lot of small wins kind of step by step, but when you get to a certain size, you're working on strategy, you're working on long-term things, you're on culture, and that's going to be reflected kind of with time.
What's one piece of advice you would give to someone that would follow your steps?
I think my biggest piece of advice to anybody that does freelancing is try to learn as much as possible. You're going to be working at great companies, with great companies, maybe with great agencies afterwards, like if you're freelancing. So just try learning as many things as possible. Our craft is pretty big, and you can constantly learn, you can constantly make connections, and in the end, those connections can result in you opening an agency if you want to, or to just kind of maybe switch jobs or get more referrals later on if you're a freelancer. Even to this day, like some of the biggest connections I've made were like when I was a freelancer, and like some of those are like one of my best friends currently, some of them are kind of one of our clients. So based off of that, don't be scared, just use the freelancing career to travel, to meet new people, and that based off of that, you can create a pretty interesting life for you. The biggest tip I would give to somebody who wants to start an agency is to actually just go ahead and do it. Like, don't try to buy courses, don't try to go ahead and kind of go that route. Just find like 1 or 2 YouTubers you want to follow, and like you want to follow their journey completely. Read maybe a book a month or something like that, and start basically working like 8 to 10 hours every single day on your business. Just because you cannot fail if you don't give up. So based off of that, it's gonna take a lot of time. It's gonna take time for something to pick up. For us, honestly, like even for our studio, like for the first 2 years, we're like this until we kind of started to kind of continue growing. So based off of that, just continue working. And if you started the business for the right reasons, and that is for the fulfillment of actually learning, growing, and just kind of for the fulfillment of actually building a business, it shouldn't be a problem for you if you don't see any progress for some time. Of course, it's gonna be stressful, it's not gonna be easy, but if it was, everybody would build a business in the end. So based off of that, just kind of don't give up. It's gonna take time, you're gonna make mistakes, it's gonna be costly, sometimes you're gonna even be without a salary, but in the end, it's all gonna be worth it. This was a pretty interesting episode to record, honestly, just because I've been on the freelancing side, and I've been also on the agency side, and I am currently on the agency side. So based off of that, like I can say that both kind of sides are kind of pretty fun. Both sides have a lot of advantages and a lot of disadvantages, and it's gonna come down to personal preference. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody who's great should create a business and kind of start an agency, or on the other side, it doesn't mean that everybody should be a freelancer. Somebody's maybe built more for kind of building a business. So based off of that, hopefully this short video can give you an overview of kind of what were my thinkings behind choosing the agency route in the end, but also kind of give you some of the examples of kind of how it was when I was actually a freelancer. So if you want to continue learning more about Webflow and business, go ahead and press the like button down below and subscribe to our channel, as we publish videos weekly, and we're currently writing a pretty interesting series that's called Build to Grow, so you can kind of follow our process of building a business from the ground up.